got a nice flower. I'm going to put it in my hair.
Maybe Shyami can help you.
It's fine.
It's fest? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, the bag. Yeah, I got to get my ears in.
Can we buy the books tonight? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
He asked, can he buy a book today, tonight?
What?
He want to buy a book.
Oh, you want to buy a book?
Yeah, can I buy one?
Okay, well, I didn't bring any with me.
But they can bring maybe.
Huh?
They can bring or tomorrow.
Yeah, she can go get one.
Yeah.
Okay. She can get one. When are you leaving? I'm leaving Friday. When are you leaving?
Yeah, on Saturday. Saturday.
Uh-huh. Ah!
On Saturday.
Where are you going?
Back home.
Where?
I live in Italy.
Where?
Torino.
Torino.
Yeah. The city. Torino means bull.
Oh, really?
Like the Dharma. It has just one.
I just dropped my flower.
Leg.
One leg standing, like the Katolika.
Maybe like.
What?
That's
Oh,
the symbol of
The
thanks.
symbol of the city.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's my eyes.
Vedic.
Got it.
Yes, it is.
But in the process, I lost my flower.
Mataji, here's the.
The camera, is it starting yet or not?
Yeah.
How far?
Where's Balaram?
8 hours.
Oh, there's
Started.
Balaram.
Which bus you take?
Oh, coconut. It doesn't have sugar, no?
No, I don't think so.
100% sugar-free? I hope. Sometimes they put sugar in it.
Nothing, no.
Oh, that's good. That's really
100%.
good. Huh?
100% it says.
100%? How much costing here?
I'm not sure.
He didn't
You
check.
have actually the
Huh?
the receipt. The receipt.
Well, I
you
just
have.
wondered, they have, different types, but it looks pretty good. We'll try it.
It's organic.
You should be offering some to Lunshire. He might enjoy it in the hot weather.
Not a bad
After
idea.
all, South India, the land of coconuts. So when do we start? Is it
Whenever you're
starting?
ready.
Okay. Ah, wonderful, Balaram. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's coconut water. Cold coconut water. It's what I've been needing. Cold coconut.
Yeah, 2. You want one?
Huh?
You want one?
Yes, but I want a sign.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
Absolutely heavenly.
There's still more.
No, it's good for now. So are we going to start now?
Yeah. Do you want to give an introduction to about what
Yeah.
is this and why we're doing it?
Okay. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutalaya Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Deve Guru Vani Prachani Nivashesha Sunyavadi Basta Om Agana Devadasya So, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We're doing something a little different this evening. What we're doing is we're going to show pictures from a very, very early time in the Hare Krishna movement, that is 1967, of the Prahlad story. It so happened that Srila Prabhupada was very, very absorbed in Nrsimha Leela. I was a brand new devotee. I'd only been a devotee for 2 months, less than 2 months about. So we didn't know anything at all. But he was very absorbed in it. And when we arrived from San Francisco to New York, he gave us a project. He wanted to have a series of paintings showing the story of Lord Nrsimhadev and Prahlad Maharaj. His plan was to have them for a slideshow for children. That was his plan. And eventually it was. Actually in England they made a slideshow and they did show it for children. But also BBT made a book of those pictures, and they're very primitive little paintings. You have to remember we were only 20 years old and we were not so experienced, but Prabhupada was very pleased with them. And the best part of him is that we actually were doing them in his apartment. So he was coming in and out of the room every day, several times a day. And it was a tiny apartment in New York. It's 26 2nd Avenue. It had 2 tiny rooms. I mean, I can't even, 10 by 14 maybe? Something like that. Well, you don't do you have meters here. So 10 feet by 14 feet. And maybe the living room was just a little bigger. Maybe it was 12 by 16, maybe. Very small. And so there was a window between the 2 rooms. And it was like a pass, you could, look into each room that way. And so we worked in the room, the little living room, the tiny living room, was the art studio where me, Jadharani, and Gorsundar, my husband, worked on paintings. And Prabhupada worked on his translations and whatever in the very next room. And he would it was so tiny, this apartment was so tiny. He would walk in the room every day, and he was very interested. He was also speaking about Prahlad Maharaj at this time. I don't know, he might have been translating that part of the Bhagavatam. I'm not really sure. I guess it would be easy to find out. But I was a brand new devotee, only 2 months. So I really wasn't that aware of what all he was doing. So anyway, he told us the story, and then he guided us in each painting. Because bear in mind, we're brand new devotees, we have no clue about anything. Srimad Bhagavatam has not been printed yet. There are no books, there are no temples, just kind of get a grasp of that time frame, And so, the beginning of the story is it's the 4 Kumaras, these little boys, they're actually liberated souls, and they've chosen the form of little children, are they going to visit Narayan in Vaikuntha. So that's the first picture. They're going to go visit Narayan. However, I think this is the cover of the book. We have to roll upward to the next picture, because the next picture is Srila Prabhupada in front of the Los Angeles temple, and this was a very sweet time. Every day he would come back from his walk, and there was a basket of flowers, and he would walk around to each devotee and give each devotee a flower. Each devotee would give him a flower, and he would give a flower. It was a very beautiful exchange that we did every morning, and it was just such a sweet time. This is much later, however, than when these paintings were done in New York. This is, I would say, early 70s, 70, 71, 72, maybe 73. But the paintings were done in 67. That's important for time frame here. So let's go to the first painting. So basically what's going on is this Prahlad is the hero of this story. I didn't write the story, by the way. I don't even know who wrote the story. I just did the paintings. But the story of Prahlad began long before Prahlad was born. It began with 4 saintly persons called Shanak, Shanatana, Shanandana, and Shanat Kumar. They had been living for millions of years, but they still looked like little boys of 4 or 5 years old. So these 4 little boys had often heard of the wonders of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Person. They very much wanted to visit Krishna in his shining palace. It was way beyond the stars in Vaikuntha, the spiritual sky. Vaikuntha means the land where there is no fear. There, everything is full of light, so there is no need of sunlight, moonlight, or even electricity. So these boys were the best little boys in the world, so they felt sure that Lord Vishnu would let them into his kingdom. That is why one day they went beyond the stars to the spiritual sky. When they got close to Vaikuntha, they could hear the sound of water flowing in the fountains. They could smell the fragrance of heavenly flowers. Then they approached the main gates. Next picture. The 4 boys stood at the entrance to the palace. They were surprised by what they saw. 2 powerful guards stood at the doors. They were dressed in yellow silk and had golden clubs in their hands. The names of these gatekeepers were Jaya and Vijaya. The gatekeepers were very strict. They had to bar the way to all who were not perfectly free from sin. They thought that the little boys didn't belong in Vaikuntha. They never imagined that such small boys would want to visit Lord Krishna. Only those who are spotless can enter here, spotless and pure, said the guards. The little strangers stood their ground. They were so anxious to see Lord Krishna that they threatened the guards. Let us enter, or we shall curse you, they warned, but to no avail. And curse them they did, which is how the 2 gatekeepers happened to take birth in the material world. Bear in mind, this is written for children, okay? I didn't write it. Suddenly, the Lord of Vaikuntha appeared at the gate. Lord Krishna, this is actually Lord Vishnu, but I'm not sure we really understood there was any difference at that time in history, actually. Lord Krishna knew what had happened because he is in everyone's heart. Jaya and Vijaya prayed to him with folded hands. O Lord of Lords, O King of Kings, please save us from the curse of these young boys. They have punished us because we said they were unfit to enter Vaikuntha. We beg you to take away this terrible curse. They have condemned us to take birth in the material world, and there we will suffer from the miseries of birth, death, disease, and old age. Hear me, my gatekeepers, said the Lord. These 4 boys are my devotees. I cannot take away their curse. But I shall give you this choice. You may go to that miserable material world for 7 lifetimes as my devotees, or for only 3 lifetimes, but as my enemies. And if you go to as my enemies, I shall have to kill you each time. Jaya and Vijay thought it over. Finally, they decided to be born as enemies of Lord Krishna. That way, they would be able to get back to the spiritual world more quickly. Any time spent away from the Lord was painful for them. They were willing to play the part of demons if it would speed up their return to Vaikuntha. So Jaya and Vijay took a long journey. We can't imagine how far they had to travel. They went spinning down and down and down until they reached the universe of dense darkness. The universe is shaped like an egg. It is covered by 7 layers, each one 10 times thicker than the one before. Jaya and Vijay had to pass through all these layers, such as air, fire, and water, until they finally reached the inside of the universe itself. Inside the universe, the planets were scattered like specks of dust. On one of these small planets, a terrible storm was raging. The rain beat down on a house in the middle of a forest. Claps of thunder and bolts of lightning sent the birds crying from their nests. The dogs and jackals howled. All night long the wind roared. On such nights demons are born. Because of the curse of the 4 small boys, the gatekeepers Jaya and Vijay were forced to be born as demon babies on that terrible night. Jaya, the elder child, was named Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means soft bed. He was expected to have lots of gold and a very soft bed to sleep in when he grew up. Hiranyakashipu grew up into a fierce and terrible man. He wanted to rule the whole universe, so he started a war with the demigods, who are in charge of ruling the universe, under the direction of the Lord. At the same time, Hiranyakashipu had another ambition. He wanted to live forever. Of course, no man can live forever, not even the demigods can. Only the Lord and his servants in the spiritual world can live forever. But Hiranyakashipu was very determined to get his wish granted. He stood on his toes for many years with his arms held high in the air. He stood there for so long that he turned into a skeleton and was almost covered by a giant anthill. He stood there for such a long time that by his willpower he was able to control the forces of nature. He became so powerful that the earth began trembling in fear. I want to mention with this picture, bring it down again. I want to mention that Srila Prabhupada posed for this for us, standing with his arms up on tippy toes to explain to us how to do this painting, so that you can understand that this is a very in-house project. So, keep going. Everyone became afraid of Hiranyakashipu's growing power from the power of austerities. By performing austerities, one can become powerful. From his head there came a scorching light. The whole universe became unbearably hot. People from all the planets approached Lord Brahma, the chief of the demigods, to complain. So Lord Brahma went to visit Hiranyakashipu, who had become an obvious threat to the safety of the whole planet. Lord Brahma knew that there must be a reason for his long and painful meditation. He must want something. He must want some special reward. So Lord Brahma said, "Your mystic powers are disturbing everyone. Do you want some favor from me? Is that why you are standing on your toes?" Hiranyakashipu at once demanded, "Please grant me that I shall not be killed during the day or night, inside or outside, on the ground or in the sky, or by man or beast, or by any weapon." "All right, your wish is granted," said Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu bowed low to Lord Brahma and said, "Now I shall live forever." "We shall see, foolish human," thought Lord Brahma, who knew that no man can live forever. While Hiranyakashipu was in the mountains standing on his tippy toes, the demigods attacked his palace. In the palace, they found Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu, who was going to have a baby. The demigods were afraid that the baby might become a great demon like his father, Hiranyakashipu, so they wanted to take Kayadu away. But suddenly the great sage Narada Muni appeared and said, "Release this woman. It is not right to steal another man's wife." He was very concerned that they were going to cause trouble for her. "But she is carrying the child of Hiranyakashipu," said the demigods. "He will probably turn out to be a demon like his father." "No," said Narada. "The child within her body is a great devotee. Let her come with me, and I shall protect her. I shall teach her and her child how to love God." So Kayadu went with Narada Muni. While Queen Kayadu listened to the teachings of Narada Muni, the baby Prahlad was also listening from within his mother's body. That's how he learned to be a devotee of Krishna, even before he was born. He could hear the voice of Narada Muni singing a wonderful song of praise to Lord Krishna. This is what Narad sang. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. When Prahlad was born, he was a remarkable child. He had a face that shone like the full moon. Meanwhile, Prahlad's father, Hiranyakashipu, had once again become the most powerful king in the universe. He forced all the demigods to take orders from him. But from the very first, he could not control his little son Prahlad. The thundering voice of Hiranyakashipu would have frightened an ordinary boy, but not Prahlad. When Prahlad was 5, Hiranyakashipu sent him to school. His teachers were named Shanda and Amarka. These men were very good at teaching children how to become wicked demons. Shanda and Amarka started teaching Prahlad how to break the laws of God. But Prahlad wouldn't listen. They threatened him with punishment and tried to force him to learn. But Prahlad just pretended to listen. He was thinking of his real teacher, Narada Muni. Narada used to say, "We are all part of Krishna, so always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna." Prahlad sat and thought of beautiful Krishna while his teachers taught their low and wicked lessons. After Prahlad had been in school for some time, Hiranyakashipu sent for him. The king looked at his son with interest. "Speak," he commanded. "Tell me what you have learned from your teachers." Prahlad said, "I have learned that everything belongs to Lord Krishna and that we are all the Lord's servants." "You fool," shouted Hiranyakashipu. He could not understand how a little prince could say something like that. He looked around at his palace, which was fully decorated for his pleasure. The walls were hung with black velvet and embroidered silk. Diamonds and rubies sparkled everywhere. "Everything belongs to me," screamed Hiranyakashipu. Then he turned accusing eyes on Shananda and Amarka. "Who has spoiled Prahlad?" he howled, but no one knew. So they promised to protect Prahlad in case a devotee of Krishna was coming to the school in disguise. After a while, Hiranyakashipu again sent for Prahlad. His teachers, Shanda and Amarka, were sure that this time Prahlad was better educated. Hiranyakashipu seated little Prahlad on his lap and said to his child, "My dear son, what is the best thing you have learned from your teachers?" He expected to hear about money or killing animals. But again Prahlad talked only about devotion to Krishna. He said there are 9 ways to worship God and that a person who knows these 9 ways knows everything worth knowing. The king was furious. He shouted at the teachers, but they said it wasn't their fault. They said Prahlad was naturally a devotee. They said no one was teaching him these things. "You rascal," shouted Hiranyakashipu to Prahlad. "Where have you learned this?" But Prahlad would not say. Hiranyakashipu got so angry that his eyes glowed like red-hot copper. He threw Prahlad from his lap onto the ground. He shouted to his servants, "Oh, demons, take away this boy. He deserves to be killed. He is only 5 years old, but he will not obey his father." The only thing that Hiranyakashipu wanted was treasure and pleasure. He could not understand Prahlad. "He certainly doesn't act like a son of mine. Such a disobedient boy must be killed." On and on he raged. He nearly tore out his hair in fury. "Guards," he shouted, "come and take him away. This boy Prahlad has turned out to be my enemy. How could such a disaster happen to me? My own son is a devotee of Krishna. I cannot control him. Take him away and kill him." Prahlad bowed his head as 4 guards came and dragged him off to the torture chamber. The servants of Hiranyakashipu were terrible demons. They had fearful faces with sharp teeth and reddish coppery beards and hair. They came toward Prahlad shouting, "Chop him up, pierce him, chop him up." Yelling and screeching, they tried to kill him with their sharp weapons. But Prahlad was not afraid. He felt completely safe, just like a baby on the lap of his mother. And although Prahlad's body was very soft, the guards could not stab him with their sharp spears. Thus Lord Krishna protected him. Lord Krishna loves all of his children, but he gives special protection to those who love him. Prahlad did not struggle or cry because he was always chanting the holy names of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Next, the demons decided to destroy Prahlad with a killer elephant whose feet were as hard as rocks. The elephant was trained to trample on the king's enemies. The elephant's trainer used to prod him with an iron goad. This hurt so much that the elephant would scream in pain and run amok, smashing everything to dust under its feet. When the elephant saw Prahlad, its eyes were burning with rage. But Prahlad looked at the dangerous beast fearlessly. The wild elephant stood over Prahlad, waving his head from side to side. Then the elephant swung out its trunk and pulled Prahlad to safety. 12 feet above the heads of his father, the elephant trainer, and crowd of demons. The trainer was the only one who knew how to control the elephant, but this time he could not. He danced around on the ground with his goad, menacing the elephant. The elephant swung clear and began to walk away. "Oh no," bawled Hiranyakashipu, "get that miserable child. He is making my life unbearable." Remember, this is written for children, okay? I didn't write it. I did the paintings. If Krishna protects you, no one can kill you. And if Krishna wants to kill you, no one can protect you. When the demons finally caught up with Prahlad, Hiranyakashipu ordered him thrown into a pit of snakes. The snake pit was in a damp cellar. The whole bottom of the snake pit was a tangled mess of moving bodies. Snakes coiled and uncoiled their long bodies. They were constantly moving back and forth over the oozing mud. A bite from one of these snakes would kill a person in only a few seconds. When Prahlad was thrown into their midst, the snakes made angry hissing noise. They stared at him with their glittering eyes, but Prahlad stood completely still. Then one large snake glided from the shadows. It stretched its neck up over Prahlad, as if to protect him. When the guards came, they were utterly amazed. "He's not dead," they said, "and he's made the snakes into tame pets." Said Hiranyakashipu, "This boy must have some power over animals. So this time I will throw him from the top of a cliff. His nice personality will not help him from falling and smashing on the rocks below." So Hiranyakashipu took Prahlad up to the top of a high mountain. Then Hiranyakashipu gave him a good push, and Prahlad fell. He was turning round and round, headed straight for the rocks, when Krishna appeared. Krishna stretched out his beautiful arms and caught Prahlad as he fell through the air. Prahlad never doubted Krishna. He was never afraid. Even while he was falling down and down and down, he knew that Krishna would save him. Hiranyakashipu still did not give up. If he could not throw Prahlad down from a cliff, then he would boil him alive. So the demons put Prahlad into a big pot of boiling liquid. But Prahlad didn't struggle, Prahlad didn't cry. The power of his faith was stronger than any harm his father tried to do. That means that any devotee can take shelter of Krishna, just as Prahlad did. Because he was thinking of Krishna so hard, Prahlad didn't even mind the hot boiling liquid, and his body was not burned. If heat doesn't do it, then perhaps cold will, growled his father. He sent Prahlad up to the northernmost part of the planet. It was always winter there, and the sun never shone. Snow fell in big soft flakes. Chilly winds blew over the hills. No man could live there for more than a few hours without a fire or a shelter. They sent Prahlad out to die in the freezing cold. Although he wore only a dhoti, he did not seem to feel the cold. He hardly noticed the snow falling. His love for Krishna kept him warm. I am not being hard enough on that boy, thought Hiranyakashipu. He then sent Prahlad to a place where a hurricane was raging. This hurricane could pick up a house and whirl it into the sky. Then it would smash the house into a bundle of broken sticks. But Prahlad believed that he had nothing to fear. All night long the wind roared and lightning flashed across the sky. The storm raged all around him, but the child managed to hold onto the trunk of a palm tree. He was not afraid. His face was lit up with a smile because he was thinking of his beloved Krishna. Hiranyakashipu tried starving the boy. For many days he gave him no food. Anxiously he waited for signs of success. But his waiting was in vain. Prahlad Maharaj had no need of food. He was completely satisfied with chanting Hare Krishna and absorbing his mind in thoughts of the Supreme Lord. His demoniac father then gave him poisoned food. But because Prahlad was a devotee and wished only to serve God, he first offered the food to Krishna. By the supreme power of the Lord, the poison lost all ill effect. Hiranyakashipu remained silent and despondent, his face downcast. But Prahlad's two teachers approached him and reassured him, "You need not be so morose and full of anxiety. Prahlad is nothing but a child. When he grows up, he will change in his intelligence and adapt to our ways." Being reassured by the statements of Shanda and Amarka, Hiranyakashipu agreed, and he requested them to give Prahlad further lessons in mundane affairs. Even though Prahlad did not care for the instructions, he was very humble, and he submissively went with his teachers. When Shanda and Amarka went home to attend to their household affairs, Prahlad's friends would call him to play. Smilingly, Prahlad would teach the boys about the uselessness of materialistic life. Because of their affection for Prahlad, the boys gave up their playthings and sat down to hear them. Prahlad instructed them, "My dear friends, when we are young, we should spend our time engaging in the service of the Lord, instead of uselessly wasting our lives trying to find happiness, which comes and goes of its own accord. We are all looking for our dearmost friend. That dearmost friend is Krishna, and if we please him, we shall all be eternally happy." Prahlad spoke with so much faith that the children believed him. His love was so great that the other boys could feel it too, just by hearing him speak. He laughed happily when they all began chanting the holy names in loud voices. Again and again they lifted up their little arms and danced. That is how they discovered that even a child can experience the wonderful feeling of love for Krishna. To learn how to love God is very easy if you are lucky enough to meet a great devotee like Prahlad. He led the chanting in his clear voice, "Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare." The teachers heard the sound of the children chanting, and they rushed into the classroom. When they saw what was going on, they stared at the children in amazement. they decided to take Prahlad back to his father. That seemed to be the only thing to do. So, into the throne room they brought Prahlad. "My dear king," said Shananda, "I wonder if your son is in his right mind." The king glared at his little son as if he could find the secret in the boy's eyes. But Prahlad smiled back quite pleasantly. His eyes were as bright as polished marble. But they told his father nothing. "What does all this mean?" asked the king. "I have heard reports that you are teaching the other boys to become devotees of Krishna. You may have defied me with some magic tricks before, but this is worse. Now you are taking the part of a teacher. You are teaching the boys about a supreme being that is not me. You talk about some other God who is supposed to be everywhere, but where is he? Why can't I see him? Is he in this pillar?" Prahlad fearlessly replied, "Yes, my Lord is present everywhere." Hiranyakashipu took his sword in hand and got up from his throne. He then struck his fist in great anger against the marble pillar. With a growl, he turned to Prahlad. "It's all nonsense," he shouted. "And because you are always talking nonsense, I am going to cut off your head." Just then a fearful sound came from the pillar. Hiranyakashipu looked around nervously to see where this loud sound had come from. He had never heard anything like it before. The terrible thundering sound was proof that the Lord was indeed inside the pillar. All of a sudden, a wonderful being jumped out of the pillar. His top half looked like a lion, and his bottom half looked like a man. But actually, it was Krishna. He was Krishna. This special lion form of Krishna was named Lord Nrsimhadev. He came out of the pillar to encourage Prahlad, saying, "Don't worry, I am here." Then he shook his head angrily, looking at Hiranyakashipu with burning eyes. His shining mane made his head look very large. His teeth were pointed, and his tongue was as sharp as a razor. In spite of all this, Hiranyakashipu was not even afraid. He thought that he would never die because he had a promise from Lord Brahma. Hiranyakashipu thought that Lord Brahma's promise would cover all conditions. But he never imagined anyone like Lord Nrsimhadev. Proudly, Hiranyakashipu took up his club and attacked the Lord. And for a while, Lord Nrsimhadev returned his blows, but he was just playing with the foolish demon king as a cat plays with a mouse before killing it. Finally, the Lord made a loud, shrill, laughing sound. Hiranyakashipu closed his eyes in fear of this loud laughter. Then the Lord pounced on him. The demon squirmed in terror. Then Lord Nrsimhadev placed the king on his lap and very easily tore him to pieces with the nails of his hand. Because God is the most wise person, he killed Hiranyakashipu without breaking Lord Brahma's promise. He killed him neither inside nor outside, but in the doorway. It was neither on the land nor in the sky, but on the lap of the Lord. It was neither during the day nor at night, but in the twilight. And the demon was killed neither by man nor beast nor by any weapon, but by the Lord's own sharp nails. Lord Nrsimhadev then sat down on Hiranyakashipu's throne. Shining rays of light blazed from his enormous head. No one dared to approach him. Only Prahlad came forward. The Lord was glad to see how bravely his little devotee came and bowed before him. He flashed his teeth in a smile and placed his hand lovingly on the boy's head. It was the very same hand that had killed Hiranyakashipu with its sharp nails. Prahlad began to speak. At last he was seeing his Lord face to face. His voice trembled with joy. "My father tried to destroy me, but you were always there to save me. Now you have finally killed him in a second. But I only hope that you will not send him to hell." Lord Nrsimhadev said, because you are my devotee, I shall save your father from hell. and your forefathers for 21 generations will also be saved. Now, Prahlad, said Lord Nrsimhadev, what is your desire? I'm having a hard time. Can you bring it down a little bit? My dear Lord, Prahlad answered, I have no desire. I do not want anything from you. The Lord very much wanted to give Prahlad something, but Prahlad smiled and shook his head and said, I want nothing for myself. Prahlad loved all the children in the world, and it made him very sad to think that they might never hear Hare Krishna. He remembered how his teacher, Narad Muni, used to sing and play on his veena. How glad he was that Narad had come to teach him. There are so many people in the world who are running after money, clothes, and jewels. What are these toys in comparison with you, asked Prahlad? If you are set on giving me something, then here is my desire. Would you please allow me to serve my teacher, Narad Muni, in his great work of teaching people how to chant Hare Krishna? I shall help him to make everyone happy. Is that it? This is a children's book, okay? So it's simplified.
Very nice. But Srila Prabhupada was supervising the painting. Srila Prabhupada was supervising all the painting.
He was supervising all the paintings. Yeah, we did these when we were only 2 months devotees. We had been in San Francisco, and then we came to New York. And in New York, we were working in his room, his tiny apartment. I guess one room was about from here to that wall, and then the next room was about the same size, a tiny, maybe 10 by 12, 10 by 14. And so he designed all the paintings. He told us what to put. We didn't know anything. We were brand new devotees, and there weren't any books. There were no books. There was only the 3 Bhagavatams that he brought from India, and there was, I think, there was Easy Journey to Other Planets, that also. But there weren't any, so we really didn't know what we were doing, but he would design each picture, and he posed for some of them also. He posed for Hiranyakashipu standing on his tippy toes. He posed for quite a number of them, but he loved to pose for Lord Nrsimhadev. We didn't understand, I didn't understand, and I don't think anybody else did at that time either, that he was actually in Leela, but we didn't know this. So he would come into the room, which was, the apartment was tiny, and Jadurani, myself, and my husband were working in the other room, and he was in his tiny little room, 10 by 12 maybe, 10 feet by 12 feet. You use meters here, so I'm not sure how that goes. And he would come in the room, and every day practically, he would describe how Lord Nrsimhadev jumped from the pillar, and he would raise his hands like claws and roar, and you could see the top of the whites, of his eyes, like this. And Prabhupada, he enjoyed doing this. I didn't understand why, and I didn't question it. It was kind of like, oh, that's just what happens every day. But that's really every day this was going on. And this is how we did these paintings. And he wanted them done for a slideshow for children. So they're done real simple, and I didn't write the text. The text was written, these paintings were done in 1967. Yeah, 1967. Then he went to India for several months, and we finished them all. And then he came back, it would be 68. We were with him the whole year of 68. I would think this was probably published in 70 or 71. BBT published it. It was a children's book. And so it's very simple, very, very simple written. In fact, it's actually Lord Vishnu, but whatever. There may be some inaccuracies there. So I hope Lord Nrsimhadev enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I think he did. I got the feeling that he was enjoying this. Anyway, so we wanted to show you this, because, gosh, I can't even remember now. Well, we just went through a huge drama where some of my godbrothers were challenging the fact that Lord Nrsimhadev is here, and that Prabhupada did not, I don't know how to begin to say this really, or if I should even say it. Anyway, the problem is that I can hardly remember it now because this is so powerful, this story. We went through a bit of a drama yesterday where some of the devotees were saying that these older godbrothers were saying that this Lord Nrsimhadev is the only one that Prabhupada ever talked about was the Ugra Nrsimhadev. But actually there's a lot more information that this Lord Nrsimhadev with Prahlad on his lap. And several people came to the, where's the, you see the painting now? Oh, this is very important. This was the, where was it? This is the what you call the most important part of the story. Okay, Lord Nrsimhadev then sat down on Hiranyakashipu's throne. Shining rays of light blazed from his enormous head. No one dared to approach him. Only Prahlad came forward. The Lord was glad to see how bravely his little devotee boy came and bowed before him. He flashed his teeth in a smile and placed his hand lovingly on the boy's head. It was the very same hand that had killed Hiranyakashipu with its sharp nails. Prahlad began to speak. At last he was seeing his Lord face to face. His voice trembled with joy. My father tried to destroy me, but you were always there to save me. Now you have finally killed him in a second, but I only hope that you will not send him to hell. Lord Nrsimhadev said, because you are my devotee, I shall save your father from hell, and your forefathers for 21 generations will also be saved. How? Now, Prahlad, said Lord Nrsimhadev, what is your desire? My dear Lord, Prahlad answered, I have no desire. I do not want anything from you. The Lord very much wanted to give Prahlad something, but Prahlad smiled and shook his head and said, I want nothing for myself. Prahlad loved all the children in the world, and it made him very sad to think that they might never hear Hare Krishna. He remembered how his teacher, Narad Muni, used to sing and play on his veena. How glad he was that Narad had come to teach him. There are so many people in the world who are running after money, clothes, and jewels. What are these toys in comparison with you? Asked Prahlad. If you are set on giving me something, then here is my desire. Would you please allow me to serve my teacher, Narad Muni, in his great work of teaching people how to chant Hare Krishna? I shall help him to make everyone happy. Is there another one?
No, that's it.
Yeah.
So go back to the one where Prahlad is sitting on his lap. Okay, here was the big war. They were saying that no, Prahlad never. This form was not mentioned by Prabhupada. But actually, this is the proof. This painting is the proof that Prabhupada designed this. He designed all these paintings. We didn't know anything. We were brand new devotees. Been devotees 2 months. We were clueless. We just did whatever he told us to do. And so this is actually the proof for this Lord Nrsimhadev deity that you have here with Prahlad on his lap, that Prabhupada did indeed, he did indeed teach this. This was his instruction. And so it all ended very happily, but it went through a few hours of extreme
Debates.
battle. There's no other way to put it.
Yesterday, huh?
Huh?
Yesterday?
Oh, yes, this happened yesterday. This happened last night. And then the worst part was that this picture is on my website, but I couldn't figure out how to, when I tried to send it, because I knew that this was the answer that shows that Prabhupada designed each of these paintings. We didn't know anything. We were brand new devotees. And so, so I tried to send it, but it kept coming out like a little box with a question mark in it. And I don't know why, because I'm just not a tech person. And so finally I wrote Atmavidya, and I said, I can't make it go, what's going on? And so he figured out how to do it and sent it to everyone. But that happened then today. But it was a very intense few hours of warfare amongst several devotees that were thinking that this, and it was kind of like I felt like I was having to defend him, which is because I was aware that this is true, but anyway, he sure does have a nice mane. Don't you think we should get a mane like that for him? I think it would be so nice. We could get blonde mane and weave gold stripes into it, gold threads into it. So anyway, that's the story of Prahlad Maharaj. That's the story of this deity. This is actually in a children's form. As I said, Prabhupada designed this. These were his paintings. He designed all of them. He answered questions about them. And he wanted it for a children's slideshow. So here we're all children, and we're getting to watch the slideshow. One thing that for the demons, I had to do the demons, trying to poke Prahlad with a, and one event did take place at that time, but I had no idea how to paint a demon. So how do you paint demons? Remember, I was just a 20-year-old college girl, and I didn't know how a demon should look. But there were a lot of comic books around, and so I borrowed pieces from each comic books back in the, they had different things, imaginary creatures, all kinds of imaginary creatures. So I copied some demons with horns and tails, and I don't know, if one of the paintings you saw was they were trying to poke him with a spear. And so then the way we did these drawings, the way we did this, we went to, Prabhupada was in the next room, and he would walk into the room several times a day. So he was like watching over our shoulder. So we would ask him, is this okay? Is that okay? How does this look? Well, what about this? You see my point. And so on one particular occasion, I was like, I don't know how demons look. How am I going to do this? So I did some demons. I crafted them, little horns here and little tails there from different comic books. And then I showed them to Prabhupada. He says, oh yes, those are very good demons. Yeah, that's very, and then he said, oh yes, there are such demons now, even in the dark jungles of Africa and South America, places in the dark jungles there are such demons. And in my innocence, I said, oh really? I didn't know that. And he looked at me with so much love and compassion, and he said, there are many things you do not know. It was a very sweet exchange. There are many things you do not know. And then he proceeded to teach these things. But we were young, we were 20-year-old, and besides that, they tell you everything is hidden. That that's all just comic books, right? But the truth is there are such demons, but we didn't know that. So this is Linda Shingadev jumping out of the pillar. I mean, they're very primitive drawings, but we were also doing them for children, so you want them to be a bit simple.
They're amazing. We should reprint it. We should reprint it.
We should reprint this. I was just saying that today. We really should. This book should be reprinted. But, I didn't write the text, by the way. I don't even know who wrote the text. It was so long ago.
Are there any hard copies around?
Well, of course I have one. I'm kind of like a museum person. I have everything. I even have Prabhupada's charter and shoes, and I'm a museum. I'm the museum type. I like all this historic things, old letters, all that kind of stuff. And I have a copy of it. I do have one. But the original paintings, I don't know where they are. I don't know what happened to them. It was so long ago. This was done in 1967, I mean, it was very, very early times. But what's interesting to me is that Prabhupada was he was really, really stressing the importance of Lord Nrsimhadev, even in 1967. And the night of his heart attack, when I was perched at the window with Jadharani, and Prabhupada was having them sit him up. He was having Brahmananda, Gargamuni, or Brahmananda and Sastra sit him up. We're taking turns, and open the Bhagavatam for him. We had no idea, even that night, what was going on. We were such children. But he taught us that night, he told us to say the prayer. That was the first appearance of the Nrsimha mantra, Tavakara Kamala Barena Kamadvitasringa. Only that part of it, actually. Not the whole thing, but he had us praying, my dear Lord, my master has not finished his work. Please give him more time. And so we only had 2 temples. We had Frisco, and this happened in New York. And so we were calling San Francisco, and so they were chanting all night, and we were chanting the Tavakara Kamala prayer to save Prabhupada. That was how we were thinking, anyway. And it was a very special time. Any questions?
I'm wondering, because there is this letter where the disciples in Germany...
Wait a minute, start over.
The disciples in Germany received a letter from Prabhupada. This is the story in our Simhachalam book. The disciples were complaining to Prabhupada about so much difficulties here with the government, with the state, and so on. And then Srila Prabhupada wrote back that you should worship Nrsimhadev. But there were never these details that like about the Murti of Nrsimhadev, Prahlad, Narasimha, and so on. So I wonder, like, I would love to hear from, I don't know, Krishna Kshetra Maharaj, Sachinandana Maharaj, because they are the ones telling the story. What was the turning point, or who actually made the decision that we worship this specific form of Nrsimhadev? Because that was still to Prabhupada's time, and they technically invited Prahlad Narasimhadev from India to be worshipped here. They didn't invite Ugra Nrsimhadev or Lakshmi Nrsimha and so on. So I'm just.
We need to. I think it would be very important at this time to gather all the material together about this, because I mean, full on. I just went through a full on attack. I'm full on, right? and she was there. She was there. She knows what all the letters going back and forth and everything. And so I think that what needs to happen is you need to get all the information from that time with Prabhupada. And this painting was actually the painting that won the debate, because I wasn't winning. But it's the painting. This is from '67, and it's obvious. I did not design any of these paintings. I was a brand new devotee. Prabhupada designed every one of them, and that is a fact. And he designed the one of Prahlad sitting on Lord Nrsingadeva's lap. And so what they were saying was that that's not in the Bhagavatam, and it's what do you call it, fabricated, or it's so many things like that. But I think that what needs to happen is you need to have some kind of a historic with his letters, with this book, and with also there was Abhaya in Bulgaria sent an article by an Indian devotee who was present at the installation, and he had some interesting information as well about what Shastras it's in, because apparently there are Shastras that talk about it. One of the things that he said was that not only did he sit on his lap, but Lord Nrsingadeva licked him. He licked it like a baby lion.
Actually, many years ago, Satyananda Maharaj was, because it's an old topic actually, it's not a new topic.
Well, I just got attacked on it,
Yeah.
so I didn't know that. I was completely innocent.
And Satyananda Maharaj, many years ago, Chaturdasi, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when the Brihad Bhagavatamrita was published, in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's the mention that Nrsingadev takes Prahlad on his lap and he licks him like a lion mother licks her calf. So,
That's good.
Brihad Bhagavatamrita from Sanatana Goswami.
Might be good to make some compilation using this as well, you know?
Yeah, because we already have quite a nice collection in our new history mantra book from Simhachalam.
It's beautiful.
But in the next reprint, we certainly will, add whatever extra information we had. Especially this painting is really, it's exactly the way Nrsingadev is sitting with one leg up, and Prahlad also on that side, and Nrsingadev giving blessings.
Yeah, and we didn't have pictures from India yet. Whatever we had came right from Prabhupada, telling us how to do it. We would go in his room 20 times a day, like this, and he would come and he would watch our work. And what was so amazing is he would roar. Rah, he would raise his hands like claws, and he would go like that, and you could see the whites of his eyes above. He would raise his eyes really open, and he would do this every day. And we didn't know what Leela was. We didn't really know what that. We didn't understand that he was absorbed in that Leela at that time. Now, of course, we understand a little bit more, but at the time we just kind of accepted it. It was just what happened every day. And he did, so far as the demons are concerned, another thing that happened while I was doing the demons, all the demons poking and stuff. And I had to look in some comic books to get some demons, and kind of put them together, some horns and tails, like that. And I told you there are many things you do not know. When I said, "Are these okay?" And he said, there are such demons in parts of Africa and in dark jungles of Africa. And I was just amazed. I said, "Oh, I didn't know that." And he said, "There are many things you do not know." And it was such a beginning time, such an early time in the movement. The movement didn't even exist yet, really. And yet this was such an important story that he would, the very first thing that he had us do, we did 2 projects in San Francisco. First, we did a painting of Radhakrishna the cow, and then painting of him with Lord Chaitanya touching his head. But then when we came to New York, he started us on these paintings. These were like 25 paintings, a series of paintings. And we did most of them right in his room. And then, of course, that was a couple of months, over 2 months, and then he had the heart attack. And the night of the heart attack is whenever he introduced the Nrsimha mantra. So he was very absorbed in this Leela. I don't understand it completely, but what I have understood since then is that this particular Kali Yuga is very, very dangerous. It's more dangerous than other Kali Yugas because the Lord came only 5,000 years ago and Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago. And so the demons have got to really try harder to create havoc in this particular Kali Yuga. So we are at a very special time in the day of Brahma, this partial dissolution that we're experiencing right now. And Srila Prabhupada, he encouraged this worship from the earliest times, this chanting of this mantra for Lord Nrsimhadev to protect us. There should be more Lord Nrsimhadev temples, I think. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. I really love the style of the paintings. I really love them. And my favorite one is the one like Nrsimhadev coming from the pillar. That one. And you just said that Srila Prabhupada was posing for that one as well, like roaring.
Every day he would come in and tell the story and roar and raise his hands like claws. This was a daily occurrence. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think anything of it. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. We were just mesmerized. And, whatever, kind of like we're young too, 20 years old. So he would raise his hands like, "Rawr," and he would roar. He would roar. And you could see the white above his eyes jumping from the pillar. And so it was, and he posed for Hiranyakashipu as well. He described each. We had zero paintings from India at this time. We had nothing really to go on other than what he told us. And the 3 Bhagavatams, but they didn't have all the paintings or anything in them. They were the ones, they're called Delhi Bhagavatams, straight from India.
And I especially like Lord Nrsimhadev nails on that painting. Did Srila Prabhupada say anything about the nails? They are long and very sharp there.
Well, he said the nails, I personally, that's interesting, they're really long. Personally, I had an experience during an eclipse many years ago where I was chanting the Nrsimha mantras the whole 5 hours of the eclipse. I was listening to them and chanting them the whole time. And I had a flash darshan, and the nails that I saw were this long. And they looked like sabers. They look like sabers. But I'm sure he's finishing, I'm sure they're retractable because cats can retract their nails. I have no doubt that they're retractable. I mean, if you stop and think about it, that's what they can do. Anything else?
Hare Krishna. I hope I don't commit offense. It's just a clue I have that I heard that Lord Chaitanya, he liked a lot the narrations of Prahlad Maharaj and of Dhruva Maharaj. And then I also heard that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that he, those disciples who were not scholarly, he would recommend to read those pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. So I'm a speculator in that regard, but maybe Srila Prabhupada, he followed in that mood and had an idea to promote the Leela of Lord Nrsimhadev for the general people.
Well, he certainly introduced it very early. I mean, we're talking 1967. He introduced it very early. And that's when we started singing the Nrsimha prayer after every kirtan. And also, I came to realize later on that this particular age, this particular Kali Yuga is more dangerous than the other Kali Yugas, because Krishna appeared, because Lord Chaitanya appeared. And so therefore, it requires more strength to protect the devotees. And so, I mean, what do we know? We're so tiny. Anything else? Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Hare Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Govinda Mataji ki jai.
Nrsingadev ki jai.
Shri Prahlad Singh.
Nice, huh?
Yeah,
Fun, huh?
that's good.